Hello, I'm Connor, and I chose the poem Asleep in the Valley by Arthur Rimbaud. Alright, now for the poem. A small green valley where a slow stream flows and leaves long strands of silver on the bright grass. From the mountain top stream the sun's rays. They fill the hollow full of light. A soldier very young lies open-mouthed, a pillow made of fern beneath his head, asleep, stretched in the heavy undergrowth, pale in his warm, green, sun-soaked bed. His feet among the flowers he sleeps. His smile is like an infant's, gentle without guile. Ah, nature, keep him warm. He may catch cold. The humming insects don't disturb his rest. He sleeps in sunlight, one hand on his breast. At peace. In his side there are two red holes. Alright, now back to stanza 1. A small green valley where a slow stream flows and leaves long strands of silver on the bright grass. From the mountain top stream the sun's rays. They fill the hollow full of light. This stanza sets the scene for the poem. We see a beautiful and peaceful landscape. The poet uses an abundance of imagery here to display the beauty that hides the horror to come. It is interesting how the poet makes you desire to see this valley, because even though it holds a dead body, the poet really wants you to be where this valley is. Stanza 2. A soldier, very young, lies open-mouthed, a pillow made of fern beneath his head, asleep, stretched in the heavy undergrowth, pale in his warm, green, sun-soaked bed. This stanza introduces us to the soldier who we assume is sleeping. The poet shows how nature comforts him in his sleep by using the fern as a pillow and the grass as a bed. The soldier is depicted as being in a very deep sleep. However, when we see the poet describes him as pale, the first thing you go to thinking is pale in death. In this way, the poet is sort of foreshadowing toward the end of the poem. Stanza 3. His feet among the flowers he sleeps. His smile is like an infant's, gentle without guile. Ah, nature, keep him warm. He may catch cold. Although this stanza, as well as the next, is a little bit shorter, this is where Rimbaud begins to truly reveal the truth behind the soldier's situation. Here we see a simile. The soldier's smile is compared to an infant's. The soldier is described as gentle, which is contradictory to how a lot of people view soldiers. The poet then asks the nature to keep him warm, as if he were to catch a cold. However, this is just more foreshadowing to the soldier being dead. Stanza 4. The humming insects don't disturb his rest. He sleeps in sunlight, one hand on his breast. At peace, in his side there are two red holes. We learn in this stanza that the soldier isn't asleep, he's actually dead. The line about the humming insects is supposed to highlight how deep of a sleep he's really in. However, we see that the insects don't disturb him because they physically can't, because in reality, he is dead. Even though he is dead, the soldier is at peace because he's finally away from all the suffering and the devastation that war causes. Now for the significance of the title. What is important about the title is the fact that it leads you to think that it's about someone, just simply sleeping in a valley. However, it's more morbid than it seems. Throughout the poem, the poet uses sleep to allude to death, and it is also used in the same way in the title, Asleep in the Valley. Now moving on to the dramatic irony. The dramatic irony of the poem is that 3 out of the 4 stanzas depict this beautiful and peaceful place, and then we discover the horror that leads behind it. The whole time we thought the soldier was sleeping, but he was actually dead. Now for the more powerful poetry term in the poem. In this poem, one of the more powerful poetry terms is the simile in this line. The simile here is that the soldier's smile is being compared to an infant's using like. This term is powerful in the poem because it shows how gentle the soldier is, and it highlights how all soldiers are just humans, just like everybody else. Rimbaud uses this comparison to express how soldiers aren't responsible for the destruction that war causes. This brings me to my final point and the moral lesson of this poem. The main lesson is the futility of war. Rimbaud wants his audience to see that it's war itself that causes suffering, not just the soldiers, and this is why it's so pointless to Rimbaud. Everyone involved in war suffers because of it, just like the soldiers in the poem. However, this poem discusses life more than it does death. Through this, Rimbaud shows us that even in war and in death, the world still holds so much beauty and hope. Thank you.